first story is titled, Am I the a-hole for calling the cops after my half-brother took my car while I was having dinner with family? I, 23 female, have always been civil with my 19 male half-brother. We were close as kids, but he started to have an attitude at 13 and pretty much stopped being nice and started messing with my things, / making fun of me and doing pranks to annoy me, / privacy was gone with him coming into my room and taking my things. Whenever I complained, my stepmom would normalize his behavior and make excuses. My dad never really grounded him and thought that talking to him will get him to behave better. I'm currently in college. I live in a rented apartment and have a car to help me get to the university or other places. The car isn't expensive or fancy at all. I saved up for it 2 years ago. I decided to have Christmas dinner with my family. It's the perfect opportunity to be with my family since I haven't seen my dad in a while. I arrived at my dad's house and left my purse and my keys on the kitchen island after my stepmom told me to help with dinner. My half-brother started talking about my car in the kitchen while my stepmom was listening and asked if he could take it for a couple of hours to hang out with friends. I politely told him no. He threw a fit and brought up how I needed to relax and not worry, but my answer was still the same. While we were sitting at the dinner table, my half-brother got up, washed his hands, and I thought he went outside. I got busy talking to my dad, and after I got up to wash my hands, I noticed my car keys weren't there. I went outside to ask him, and neither he nor my car were there. I lost it. I started calling his phone, but he hung up on me several times. I was furious. I told my dad I'd call the police if he didn't come back with the car. My stepmom jumped to defend him and said I was being unreasonable to call the police. I called him one last time, then I called the police. My stepmom freaked out when my half-brother got picked up by the police. She told me to go explain the situation to the authorities, otherwise he'd spend the night in jail. But I refused, especially since I still hadn't got my car back. Stepmom yelled that I ruined dinner and that it was no big deal. He was going to return it after borrowing it from me, but he didn't really borrow it, and she heard me say no. I don't know what she told the police, but I didn't give permission to use the car. My stepmom's side of family are mad at me for doing this to my brother and hinted that I don't consider him family. My dad's side of family sided with me, saying he deserved it. My dad said I overreacted and I shouldn't have called the police when he disappeared for 4 hours. Edit. He did not borrow it, but my stepmom said I let him borrow it, which is not true. Edit. Just to clarify, I talked to the police about what happened, and I learned later that my stepmom said that her son was allowed to borrow it and that it was a misunderstanding. I wasn't going to let her continue to lie, but my dad told me to back off and let it go. This really upset me. My half-brother wasn't even berated the way I was by the family. Not the a-hole. He borrowed your car. You borrowed his free time for the night. Fair trade. Exactly. I'm pretty much certain that he did not borrow it. For her to lie and say I let him borrow it and only call the cops because he wasn't picking up the phone isn't acceptable. She bad-mouthed me to her entire family and they all berated me based on the story she told. See, I'm the type of person who, if I ever posted a question here, knows I would be the a-hole, and I'm okay with that. So take anything I say with a grain of salt. I would be vindictive and post a meme somewhere that the family will see it, that basically followed the theme of, what the rest of the world calls stealing, my family calls borrowing. Make it pretty clear what actually happened. Jeez. Not the a-hole at all. How can anyone consider it an overreaction? He literally stole your car after you told him you didn't want him to use it. Why didn't your parent/step-parent offer to let him use their car? This should be a moment to show him about responsibility and accountability, not to blame you for standing your ground. Your dad is really letting you down. Simply ask how it'd feel in a similar situation. My stepmom thought I ruined the night and overreacted because he just borrowed a car from me, even though I told him no right in front of her. My dad is indeed letting me down by how he reacted in this situation. All I wanted was to have a peaceful dinner with family, but my half-brother was being stubborn. Not the a-hole. He broke the law and got his karma. What would have happened if he got pulled over? What would have happened if he was speeding and caused a crash? He now has a criminal record that he earned himself. If anything, it's his parents' fault for not raising him to respect you and your boundaries. There's no talking to him, so he behaves better in that situation. Stand your ground on this, OP, and if it's such an issue for your father, then make it such an issue for you. Good luck. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for pressing charges against a family member? So, I went over to my aunt's house on Christmas Eve because she told me she had a gift for me. I'm pretty estranged from my family, but stopped over to say hello anyways and accept the gift. She urged me to stay for coffee and talk with her. My 18-year-old cousin was also there. Well, we get to drinking coffee, and of course coffee makes me pee, so I excused myself to the bathroom and my dumb self leaves my purse on the kitchen counter. I hear someone go outside, and then some keys jangling and zippers opening from the kitchen, but I think nothing of it. I thank my aunt and leave. On Christmas morning, I got a fraud alert text from my credit card user that someone made around $800 worth of purchases. Of course I text back, no, this wasn't me, and begin panicking and trying to retrace my steps. I realized that I've been working from home for the last several weeks, and the only time I actually went out anywhere was to my aunt's house the other day. I look up where the transactions were coming from, and had a hunch that it was my cousin who had taken copies of my card while I was in the bathroom at her house. Well, I called the cops, and now she's in a lot of trouble. I phoned my aunt and told her what had happened, and she didn't believe me until my cousin freaking admitted to doing it and began crying and hyperventilating that she'd pay me back as soon as she'd get a job. I began screaming at her that what she did was a federal crime and that she's going to prison. And why the hell did she do what she did, thinking she wouldn't get caught? She hung up after that and never knew what my aunt's initial reaction was after my cousin admitted to doing it. Until this morning. I put my phone on Do Not Disturb for the night and received over 40 calls and text messages from my aunt, uncle, and cousin, pleading me to drop the charges because I'll ruin my cousin's life, and she realizes what she did was wrong. I texted back to my aunt, I don't care if it ruins her life. She literally committed credit card fraud and deserves to be punished. She's 18 now, she's an adult. Aunt, you are a very cold and rude person. No wonder your parents want nothing to do with you. You don't even want to take care of them. Your cousin said she was sorry, and she's applying for jobs, and we can figure something out for her to pay you on an installment plan. Me, I'll consider dropping charges if you pay the $800 to me in full by Friday. And, no, that's not how that works. Me, okay, well then I'm not dropping the charges. And, okay, well then you don't have a family anymore. I want you to return the gift I got for you, and I'm calling your parents to tell them what happened. Lol, okay, call my parents. I'm 27. Am I the a-hole for pressing charges against my cousin and then refusing to consider dropping them when my aunt wouldn't compromise? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. They literally stole from you. Actions have consequences. Are you on the hook for that money, or did the card company let it go? And, no, that's not how that works. OP, tell that to the judge. And, surprised Pikachu. Not the a-hole, you did everything right. Your family, on the other hand, all of them suck here. If it was a total stranger, no one would be upset at you for calling the cops. No one. Lesson learned for your cousin, don't be a thief. If you back down, they will do it again. 100% it isn't the first time they did it either. Families who downplay, try to find ways for the family members to weasel out of repercussions are enablers. Your cousin will never learn if they don't have consequences for their actions. Your aunt raised a terrible child, but she's now an adult and 100% knew it was wrong. Your aunt is the a-hole along with your uncle and cousin, are manipulators, enablers, and gigantic a-holes. You are better off without those people for family. Run, hun, run. They're not family. You are 100% in the right. Hold your head high. You were robbed. You are the victim here. Don't let them talk you out of this. And hon, dear God, I'm so sorry that your own family's doing this to you. You don't deserve this at all, especially at Christmas time. Maybe I'm being cynical here, but OP, not the a-hole, is largely estranged from their family. And then out of the blue, Auntie calls them with a gift. And during that time, cousin commits the crime. Aunt sounds more than an enabler. She sounds complicit to me. On to the next story. Am I the a-hole for not reimbursing my brother for an air mattress? This happened around Thanksgiving, but I'm still getting crap about it from my family. I'm a 27-year-old woman who lives in a one-bedroom apartment by myself. My brother, 24, and his significant other, 22, have lived on the opposite side of the country, US, for a few years, and decided to fly over to see their respective families, both of whom live around the same area. Neither my brother nor his girlfriend felt comfortable staying with their parents due to COVID, so I offered them my apartment while I stayed with my significant other for the week. Everyone was happy with this arrangement. We never talked about it specifically before they arrived, so I just assumed that they would sleep in my queen-sized bed. I have a couple of couches in the living area, and while they are comfortable enough, they aren't designed to be sofa beds. The morning they arrived, I cleaned the apartment and changed the bedding. When they got to my apartment, my brother asked where they should sleep, and I indicated a bed. He sort of laughed at first, and then realized I was serious and got really angry. His girlfriend didn't say much, but looked mortified. My brother kept saying that there was no way they were sleeping in my bed, and it was disgusting for me to offer. I told him that everything was clean, and reminded him that they'd have the apartment to themselves. He just kept saying he couldn't believe it, and finally snapped that they'd have to make do with the couch. I left quickly without further discussion because I was confused and pretty upset. That night, my brother called me and said the couches were impossible to sleep on. He said that he and his girlfriend needed to purchase an air mattress and requested that I reimburse him the $55 they paid for it. By now, I was really pissed off and refused. I asked him again why they didn't just take the bed, and he said that, if I really had to ask, I have major issues. I said that I didn't care what they did or did not do in the bed. We are all adults and should act accordingly. He called me disgusting again and hung up. My parents found out and agreed that I should pay for the air mattress because I wasn't adequately prepared for their arrival. My mother specifically keeps insinuating that what I did was gross and unfair, and I should have known better. My brother has let it be known that our relationship won't go back to normal until I apologize and reimburse him and his girlfriend. I know my family can be kind of weird and uptight, so I asked my significant other and some friends for their perspective. My boyfriend says he can see both sides, and my friends are basically siding with my parents and brother, saying that it would be inappropriate for me to sleep in the same bed that my brother and his girlfriend previously shared. Edit. A lot of people are asking if we belong to some weird culture where siblings aren't able to share beds. We do not, and my family has never been religious anyway, but as I stated in my post, they are really uptight. Like, we learned about the birds and bees, but sex was always presented as something unpleasant and nasty. My brother and I never discuss each other's sexuality/intimate lives, which in my opinion is normal, but it's pretty clear he has some major hang-ups. My boyfriend is a lot more open about the topic, but he's also very attuned to when people feel uncomfortable, and says that even though he disagrees with their reasoning, he can understand why they might not want to sleep in my bed. He thinks I should just pay the $55 to keep the peace. My friends, no idea. Lol. 100% not the a-hole. Have they ever slept in a hotel? Because I guarantee that bed is a hell of a lot more gross than yours. No. See, it's okay if strangers have boinked in the bed they're sleeping in, but if it's his sister, then that's practically incest, not the a-hole. What on earth? Tell him he can go spend $55 a night on a freaking hotel next time. Not the a-hole. Where he can sleep on an untouched, virgin mattress instead of Opie's filthy, used one. Jesus Christ, what a ridiculous man. Not the a-hole. It's ridiculous on your brother's part. They could have stayed in a hotel. Or are hotels also off limits for them because stuff could have occurred on those beds before them? Yes, I would agree that hotel beds have seen their share of action, but if they wouldn't stay in a hotel either, for the same reason, that would pretty much prove that the problem is theirs and they have hang-ups. They were planning to pay for a hotel until I offered my apartment. They've definitely stayed in hotels before. Now, for the last story, am I the a-hole for being a Karen by arguing a store's ID policy? I, a 41-year-old man, went grocery shopping with my daughter, 14, yesterday. This was mainly to pick up food, but I also wanted to pick up some spirits and champagne for New Year's Eve. At the checkout, they asked for ID. This was odd because they have a challenge 25 policy in the UK and I look far older than 25. As I got my license out, the checkout assistant said, "Not your ID, sir, but hers," in reference to my daughter. I was surprised and said she's 14. I'm her dad, and this is just family shopping. Still, the checkout person refused to make the sale because my daughter was underage. At this point, I asked to speak to her manager because I figured she might be new and probably erring on the side of caution. She looked very young herself, probably still in school, so I figured she didn't want to take any risks, but a manager would probably know better. However, even her supervisor reiterated they couldn't sell me the alcohol without my daughter having proof of being over 18. I asked how would she have proof? She's 14 and I'm her father. I also said how this has never been a problem before, at this store or any other. Hell, I'd come to the same supermarkets with my daughter and wife and bought beer or wine before without being asked for everyone's ID. At this point, the manager looked at my things and also said he wouldn't be able to scan the scissors as they were also an age-restricted item. I won't lie, this pissed me right off. So I said to the manager, "Your policy is insane and lacks any common sense, and this store is a joke." I walked off with my daughter, and when I got home, I wrote an email to their head office because I genuinely do think that it's a silly policy. Throughout all this, my daughter is mortified, saying that I shouldn't have asked for the manager, that the girl was only doing her job. She also said that it was a policy, so I was in the wrong. I disagree and think some degree of common sense should be used in these situations. Now for some top comments. "Not at A-Hall, that's insane." I worked at a Tesco when I was at uni and Challenge 25 was always for individuals, or a group of people who looked 25 or under, in which case you had to ID every member of the group to make sure they were older than 18. We were always told to show discretion when it was a parent and child, or a family, because of course, many parents will buy alcohol for their own personal use while having their underage children with them in the store. That shop's policy is very silly indeed. This policy is absolutely nonsense. Many parents take their kids to shop to help with the shopping, and refusing to sell alcoholic products to an adult because of their child is so? I get that some teenagers take 18+ friends with them just so they can get the alcohol with no trouble, but this policy doesn't seem to be helping with this type of case at all. Not at A-Hall. That's a dramatic misinterpretation of store policy, and adding in the scissors was just to mess with you because you complained. I'd actually address this with corporate. The cashier's position may have been reasonable, in that if they didn't completely understand a policy, they were trying to err on the side of keeping their job. But the manager absolutely should know better, and if they don't, they need to be educated. Not selling the scissors make this a power move on their behalf. Manager trying to feel like he's got big boy shoes on and can control people. What a ridiculous rule. I sincerely hope head office comes back with a proper apology. Otherwise, please name and shame the store. Not the A-Hall. And that's the end of this video, folks. As always, leave a comment and hit like and subscribe. And if you want more of this content, turn your notification on to get updated on the latest videos. And I'll catch you with the next one. Stay safe.